All right, fellas, what just happened? Tonight was supposed to be a straightforward setup for the rematch between Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, an easy night for both fighters to keep the hype alive. But instead, we got chaos. Haney may have walked away with the win, but he did it in a way that sucked the life out of the arena. And Ryan? He didn't even manage to pull it off, falling short in what might be the biggest upset of the year, courtesy of Rolly Romero. So instead of walking into a rematch with momentum, both fighters limped out of Times Square with more questions than answers. Before we get into the gritty details, don't forget, this is your home for everything boxing. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a beat. Let's talk about the vibe first, because honestly, the whole night just felt off. The concept of hosting a fight card in Times Square sounded amazing on paper, but in execution, it flopped. The crowd wasn't your usual passionate boxing fans, it was mostly celebrities, and the atmosphere felt more like a social event than a high-stakes boxing showcase. Sure, logistically it made sense to keep it exclusive. A public crowd in the middle of Times Square would have been a nightmare to manage. But still, what we ended up with was a cold, awkward vibe that didn't do the fighters, or the fans, any favors. I don't think we'll be seeing another Times Square event anytime soon. The whole setup felt eerily similar to the Day of Reckoning card. Remember that one with Joshua and Wilder? They were both given easy fights to build up to a super fight, and Wilder ended up losing to Parker, killing the buzz. That's exactly what this card was trying to replicate. 2 stars, 2 safe matchups, and 1 big rematch on the horizon. Except history repeated itself. Haney got the win, but barely. Ryan? He fumbled the bag completely. This event was supposed to be a stepping stone. Instead, it's become a stumbling block. Quick reminder though, Canelo returns tomorrow, so hit that link in the description and get your pay-per-view setup. You don't want to miss that. Now, let's break down what actually happened inside the ring. We'll start with Devin Haney. And look, I'm not going to waste your time diving deep into every round, because frankly, there wasn't much to talk about. Haney didn't fight to win. He fought not to lose. Yesterday, I dropped a video pointing out some major mental and stylistic issues with Haney, and a bunch of people came at me. But tonight, everything I said played out. He looked nervous, unsure, scared to commit. The game plan was simple: keep moving, avoid exchanges, and let Ramirez swing at air. And to be fair, it worked. Ramirez couldn't do much without his feet set, and Haney kept it moving. But man, it was boring. Straight up painful to watch. It was like Haney was doing laps around the ring instead of actually boxing. I saw someone online say they needed Shakur Stevenson highlights just to stay awake through the fight, and they weren't wrong. This was not the Haney we saw against Regis Prograis, George Kambosos, or even Lomachenko. His jab, which used to be his bread and butter, was barely a factor. There was no offensive rhythm, no commitment to combinations, just avoidance. And that tells me his mind is still stuck in that nightmare from the Garcia fight. For all the talk from Bill Haney about how they're back and better than ever, the truth is, they're not. Haney was scared of getting hit, scared of being vulnerable, and it showed. He looked like a shadow of his former self. Yes, he won, but it was a hollow, forgettable win that left fans more frustrated than impressed. Now on to Ryan Garcia, and wow, what a collapse. We all thought Ryan would blow through Rolly. I mean, based on Rolly's recent fights, who wouldn't? Garcia looked like a star against Haney, explosive, confident, lethal. So expectations were high. But what we got was a massive letdown. Both guys started slow, but out of nowhere in round 2, Rolly tagged Ryan with a couple of awkward left hooks and dropped him. That moment changed everything. Ryan looked rattled, unsure of himself, and completely off. From that point on, the fight dragged. Garcia couldn't figure out Rolly's awkward rhythm, and he didn't adjust. He didn't look like the guy who demolished Haney. He looked like the same confused, hesitant fighter we saw against Tank Davis. Rolly, on the other hand, just kept gaining confidence. He stuck to his weird, clumsy style, but it worked. He made Ryan second-guess himself, and by the later rounds, it was clear Ryan needed a knockout to win. But he just didn't have the fire. His inactivity cost him, and Rolly cruised to a well-earned decision. Props to the judges for getting it right. This was one of the biggest upsets of the year, no question. But this result leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions. First off, was this Garcia's first clean fight in a while? The elephant in the room is the positive test from the Haney fight. Without certain substances in his system, was he just average? I don't necessarily buy that theory, but it's going to be a hot topic of debate. What I do believe is that ring rust was a factor for both fighters. Neither Haney nor Garcia had fought in a while, and it showed. Timing was off, confidence was shaky, and in Ryan's case, his personal life always seems to spill into the ring. He looked like he wasn't even expecting to win, like he knew something, was off in camp long before fight night. Here's another big question. What does this mean for the Haney-Garcia rematch? Despite how bad both guys looked, I still think it happens. The fight is too big not to make. But the smart move would have been to book it immediately after their first clash, instead of this weird in-between card that ended up backfiring. Haney still wants revenge. Garcia probably thinks Haney is easy work now. Stylistically, it's still an interesting matchup. And commercially, it's still a blockbuster. Both men may have lost some shine, but the rivalry is real. And that sells. Look, both fighters are in weird spots. Haney got the W, but it felt like a loss. He looked like a guy going through the motions, not a future legend. For Garcia, the inconsistency continues. When he's confident, he's electric. When he's not, he looks like a shell of himself. There's no middle ground with him. He either shows up and lights the place on fire, or shows up and disappears under the spotlight. Tonight, we saw the latter. Even after the fight, he didn't seem shocked or devastated. That's not a good sign. Something's clearly off behind the scenes, and we can't forget about Rolly Romero. The guy delivered. After getting clowned for years and written off by just about everyone, he pulled off one of the most shocking wins of the year. He was awkward, wild, and unconventional. But it worked. He capitalized on Garcia's hesitation and now finds himself back in the mix. But let's be real, he's not getting a rematch with Ryan next. He even said in his post-fight interview that he knows Haney Garcia 2 is probably next. That's where the money is. So now, I want to hear from you guys. What did you make of all this? What went wrong for Haney? Why did Garcia look so off? And does this event kill the momentum for their rematch, or does it make it even more intriguing? Drop your theories and breakdowns in the comments. This was one of the weirdest fight nights we've seen in a while, and I know you guys have thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay locked in, because we've got a lot to talk about in the world of boxing. Thanks for watching, fellas, and I'll catch you in the next one.